Good morning, Boker Tov, Boker Or. We're going to be starting today. Sanhedrin. We are in the 10th parak. We are on Daf. Chet Amud Aleph. Chet Amud Aleph. We are on the bottom over there. Shlosha Bate Dinin. So in the English, 88, 84. Shlosha Bate Dinin. So what are we holding in? We're holding in the case of Zaken Mamre. The guy who it could be a rabbi, he can sit on a bed din. He has smicha, and he goes against what the Sanhedrin Hagadol paskin, and he gives his own psak. And we said, what case is this in? And he killed with Heinik. And we said, what case is this in? So there's a three machloket. We had to be mayor that said he has to be saying it in a case where if the guy did it on purpose, he gets karet. If the accident, he has to bring a hatat. According to Yehuda, it has to be its source is in the Torah, and it has to be explained by the Chachamim. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai basically said anything that he goes against the Chachamim, he would get the punishment of mitah. Okay, so we're starting off today's Shosha Batidinin. Exactly how are they arguing? Well, that's the question. If he's arguing not based on his own logic, but rather he's saying this is what I heard from my rabbis. Can he be considered as Zaken Mamre or not? So says the Gemara of Kahana. If Kahana said, "Who Amr Pi Hashemua?" If he said it, this is the way I heard it. The Hey Noimrim in the Beit Nagadol says, "Mipi Hashemua." This is the way we heard it. Einu Nehareg. He's not killed because they heard it, and he heard it. So they're both saying it from what they heard. So therefore, he won't be killed. Einu Hareg. If he says this is the way I see it, so he's saying it based on logic. And they say this is the way we see it. He's not killed because they're both on the same level. And if he says it, I heard this from my rabbis. And they say we see it from logic, so he's taking it from his rabbi's name, and they're saying it from their own logic. He doesn't get killed until he says this is the way I see it, my logic. And they say this is from our rabbis. Then that is the case that he would get killed. So according to Rav Kahana, there's a very specific case here. Is that the Beit Din say this is from our rabbis, and he says this is my logic. Then you kill him. Otherwise, if he's saying it in the name of his rabbis, or they both saying it from logic, he doesn't get killed. Tedat, you should know this. Shahare lo hargu et Akavya b'mahalalel. There was a rabbi, Akavya b'mahalalel, and he argued with the Chachamim, with the Sanhedrin Agadol in 4 cases, and nobody killed him because he said it b'shem his rabbi. Rabbi Elazar says no, that's not true. Even if he says it based on his rabbis, what he heard, and the Sanhedrin goes said, this is the way we see it. This is our logic. Neharag, he is killed. Okay, why? So there should not be machloket in Israel. We shouldn't have more machlokets than needed. If this is true, so why didn't they kill Akavya b'mahalalel? Why didn't they? Well, if he was saying it in the name of his rabbis, and they were saying it a different halacha, according to Rabbi Elazar, you would kill him. Oh no, you have to remember. Because remember, the only time Zaken Mamre would get in trouble is either he acted on his opinion or he told others the halacha is like his opinion. Then he's in trouble. So he, even though he held it, he never acted on it, and he never passed it for anyone else. He taught it theoretically. In fact, in the notes over here, and they tell us that the Kavya told his son, right, note 35, towards the end of the first paragraph, he told his son that you should follow the Chachamim. So, because they are the majority. Even though Kavya Mahalalel was teaching it the other way, he told his son to follow the Chachamim. Basically means, like the Chachamim, even though I heard it from my rabbis. Therefore, he wasn't killed because he didn't paskin. Okay, now we're going to try to bring some proof for Rabbi Elazar that it's based on not making more machloket. Tenan, because it says in the Mishnah, Kach de Rashti v'chach de Rishu Chaviroi. He says, this is the way I explained it, this is the way my friends explained it. Kach limat is the way I have taught it, v'chach limdu Chaviroi. That's the way the Chachamim are teaching it. Now, the Gemara wants to say, Ma'alav dehu amr mipiyashimua. Isn't it not that he's saying it from what he heard? When he says Kach de Rashti. Says the Aruch LaNer, why would I think of that? It means he's saying it from the name of his rabbi. Because he's saying his opinion first. Usually you say the other person's opinion, then your opinion. So if he's saying his opinion first, it must be he's saying his opinion first because it's not his opinion, but his rabbi's opinion. Therefore, he says Kach de Rashti. So the Hein Omrim Kachu Be'einenu. And the Chachamim are saying this is the way my eyes see it. And yet, he's considered as I came one way. So you see a proof to Rabbi Elazar. No, not true. Maybe the case is not clear over there when it says Kach Rashi, there's no clearness of what's going on over there. So therefore, it might be that he's saying logic and they're saying it based on that, and therefore it doesn't show proof to Rabbi Elazar. Tashma, come and learn another proof. Damar Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yoshia says, Shloshat Devarim Sachli Ze'ira Manchei Yerushalayim. Ze'ira taught Rabbi Yoshia three things from the people of Jerusalem. What did he teach him? First thing, Ba'al Shemachal Kinuyo Mahu. A husband who warns his wife not to seclude herself with another man, right? So if she secludes herself with that man, she becomes Isha Sotai and take it to the Mikdash. But he says he could be mochel on the warning. So if he gave the woman the warning in front of the two witnesses, he could then be machol, he could then forgive the warning. If she secludes herself with that man, she doesn't be brought up as a sotah. So the mechila works. Now, until what point the mechila work? So Rashi says, "Im nistara enu ne'asert alav," and if she secluded herself, her seclusion is not considered a seclusion that will make her a sotah. So it must be that he's mochel her before she is being secluded. Okay, so it has to be a mechila before the seclusion. But Tosfot, if you look at Tosfot says kinu mechul hainu davka koidim shenimcha kahamegillah. That's only it goes at a later time until they don't erase the name of Hashem from the scroll that they're going to put into the water. So that means even after she secludes herself, he can still be machol her, and the warning goes away, and she doesn't become isha sotah. So machol Rashi Tosfot. What's the limit for the mechila? At what point? So the Rambam, which is halacham, the Rambam brings, and the Rambam says that it's like Rashi. Rambam says that it's up until the time of seclusion. If she already secluded, then he can't come and take back the warning. It has to be the warning has to be taken away before the seclusion. Okay, so that mechila works. Another statement. Three statements. So one other statement. Ben sorer morem sheratzu abibimo limcholo. If a ben sorer morem, right? So this is a boy who steals his father's money. He buys a certain amount of meat, certain amount of drink, of wine. He drinks it. He eats it. He does it on someone else's property. The parents see it. They tapasu bo aviv ve'imo. They grab him to bring him to the bedin. The bedin gives him makot the first time around, and then if he does it again, you come to bedin and you kill him. Okay, skila. Now, if the parents want to be mochelim, it works. Now, until what stage can it be mochelim? So take a look at Rashi on the top. Second line, imratzu limchol, the lo hevi'u lebeitin, mochelin lo. As long as they are mochelim before they bring him to the beitin. But the Rambam doesn't learn like that. And the Rambam says, halacha is that as long as they're mochel him before the nigmar din, before the beitin says psak, if he's deserving of death or not, they can be mochel him. So a longer time than what Rashi says. Rashi says before you bring him to beitin, you mochel him. Once you bring him to beitin, you can't be mochel him. It says v'tafasuba. But the Rambam says no, as long as there's no Nigmar Din, the parents can be mochel him. Okay? And the third statement that the people of Yerushalayim told Ze'iram was Zaken Mamre Sheratzu Bet Dino Limcholo Mochalin Lo. If the Beit Din wants to be mochel as Zaken Mamre, he's arguing with Sanhedrin, they want to be mochel him, the Mechila works. Uchshabati etzel Chavar B'Shuvah Darom, Rabbi Yoshia says, when I came and I told the statement of Ze'irat to the people in Darom, in the south, Ashenayim Hoduli, on the first two, on the Sota and the this Sota Morer, they agreed and said, yeah, Mechila works. Azakem Amre Lo Hoduli. When it comes to Zakem Amre, they didn't agree with me. Why? Because the problem with Zakem Amre is what? Kedei Shelo Yerbu Machoket Israel. So there should not be machloket amongst the Jewish people. So what do we see? The same lashon to be Elazar used. Kedei shelo yirbu machloket beYisrael. So it doesn't make a difference if they're saying it. My rabbi said this, said that, said once the machloket is established and he paskins the way and he goes against the Beit Din Gadol and he does it or he tells others to do it, he is now considered zaken mamrei. Okay, and that's the halacha like to be Elazar. All right. Tanya. Amar Yossi. Mitchila lo hayu marbim machoket b'Yisrael. Originally, there weren't so many machoket b'Yisrael. There were machoket. One of them is famous coming Shavuot right now. The famous machoket already in the times of biblical times was with Ruth, right? Was she allowed to join the Jewish people or not? When it says that a Moavi cannot come in, does this mean just the male Moab? Does it mean also the female? And there was machloket, different opinions. But there weren't so many machloket b'Yisrael. There was a Beit Din that the Sanhedrin Gadol sat in Lishkat HaGazit, in the chamber of hewn stone. And there were 223 Beit Dins, 23 people Beit Din on the Temple Mount. One sat at the entrance of the Har Bayit, and the other one sat in the entrance of the courtyard. And there is Sanhedrin Katana, 23 judges in every city. You had a question. You ask the question to the judges in your city. If they know Amrulahen, they say to you the halacha. You will now go to the city that is next to you to see if they know. The Rambam in his bringing down the halachot does not bring this line. Either he didn't have this girsa, or he didn't hold of it, and he wanted you to go straight to Jerusalem. Im shamu. So if this other Beit Din knows, they will say Amrulahem. V'im lav, they don't know. Then they would go to this court at the entrance of the Temple Mount. So now you come to Jerusalem, to the Temple Mount, if you don't know. If they know, they tell you. If they didn't know, you go to the 23 Beit Din on the Azara, one higher up. Now, this next lines, some of Hashim take it out because we already talked about Zakim Amrin. Now we're just talking about how it would happen that you would know the halacha. But okay, we can still read it. If they would know, they would say to them, they don't know, you'll come to the Shkat HaGazit. And they would sit in the Lishkat HaGazit from Tamid HaShachar to Tamid Sheben Arbaim. Tamid HaShachar was usually brought around a half hour before Netahama, half hour before sunrise. And the Tamid Sheben Arbaim was brought 9.5 hours into the day. Okay, so if it's a day that sunrise is at 6 and sunset is at 6, which is a 12-hour day, right? So then 5:30 would be the Tamid Shachar, and the Tamid Sheben Arbaim, the afternoon time, will be at 3:30. Okay? Shabbat Yom Tov Yoshim Bechel. On Shabbat and Yom Tov, when you're not allowed to judge, they would sit in this place called Eichel. Was within the walls of the temple, note 7, and just 10 cubits from the walls of the temple courtyard. There was a place called Soreg, The space between the storeg and the courtyard was called the chel, and they would sit over there. Rashi explains why they would sit there. It was a very large crowd that came with Shabbat and Yom Tov, and the Lishkat HaGazit wasn't enough space. And because you're not allowed to do judgment on Shabbat and Yom Tov, so you don't want to sit in the regular judging place, so you would sit somewhere else, so they sat in the chel. The Rambam bringing down Zelachot, he calls it the Beit Midrash. They would sit at the Beit Midrash on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So She'ela b'fnehem, you ask the Sanhedrin, a question. Im shamu, if they have a tradition, they have a Mesorah, amarulayim, they would then tell the halacha. V'im lav, if they don't have, what do they do? Omdin leminyan, they would now take a vote. Rabu amet tameim, if the majority say it's tameh, tim'u, make it tameh. Rabu metaharin, if majority say it is tahor, tiharu, then it's considered tahor. Then what happened? Mishrabu Tamidei Shammai v'Hillel. Then when it came, a lot of students of Shammai and Hillel. Remember, Shammai and Hillel had a lot of machlokes. But the students, Shiloh Shimshu Kol Tzorkan, they didn't learn sufficiently. They did not Shimshu, Mishamish, the Rebbe's didn't understand the Rebbe's logic completely. They learned, but they didn't learn all the way. Whatever this means. It's very hard to say. It's about the students of Shammai and Hillel, but that's what the Gemara says. Shalom Shimshu Kol Tzorkan. They did not learn completely all the svarot, all the understandings, and therefore they got confused. And now they're able to bring understandings for their teachings, and each one seems to be holding something else. So because of their lack of complete knowledge, Rabu Machloket b'Yisrael came a lot of Machloket b'Yisrael, v'na'aset Torah kishtei Torot, and it became as if there were two Torahs. Shalom, there's one Torah. Okay, but this is what happened when they didn't learn all the way. For myself, learning this Gemara, it's important to know, but Musar skill that comes out from this Gemara as well is that you see, if you don't know something completely, you're going to come to argue. So in life, right? Spouses, family members, colleagues, workers, everywhere it is, you have to really have a full understanding of the situation before you can say something, because otherwise you're arguing, but you don't understand what it is. And a lot of times, most people are not doing the thing wrong. Everyone just has a different opinion. And if you would understand it together, you would be less of a machloket. I think that's something to understand as well. Now, so how did you get judges to the Sanhedrin Hagadol? How did it happen? Sham kotbim v'sholchim b'chol makomot. Kol mishu chacham u'shva berech. First, you would look for judges in the city, and you would look for someone who was wise and humble. Right? You don't want somebody who's wise and not humble. Not good. You want someone who has both traits, and people like him. Right? If nobody likes him, no one's going to listen to him. He becomes a judge in his city. When a vacancy happens on the court of 23 on the Harabayit, and he's a good court in his city, they would then promote him to that vacancy. How did the vacancy happen? Usually it happens when someone would pass away. Okay, because usually judges are for life. So when he passes away, they would look for a new candidate. Now if he does good over there, Misham Azara, and then there becomes a vacancy in the Azara, they're gonna move him up there. Misham Lishkat HaGazit. And if he's very good there, they would then elevate him when a vacancy happens into the Sanhedrin. Ha Gadol Shalchu Mitam. They said from there, Ezehu ben Olam Haba, who is destined to get Olam Haba, right? Everybody's guaranteed a world. Kol Yisrael Shechem Olam Haba, but not everyone's going to keep it, because if they do something Averot, they're going to lose it. So what can you do to be guaranteed to have Olam Haba? First thing, Anivatan Ushpal Berech, modest and humble. So the first two off the bat, get Olam Haba, is to be modest and humble. Shayef, Ayel, Shayef Menafek. Enters bowing and leaves bowing. Okay? He must be free from haughtiness. He must be modest. He must be humble regarding his intellectual capabilities, physical capabilities. He has to be modest with his wealth. Okay? Oh, that's in note 14. V'garis bo'oraita tidira. And he has to learn Torah constantly. V'lo mahazik tuftal nafshei. And he's not take credit for it. Okay, he doesn't make himself feel proud. Oh, look, I'm learning so much. Yehavu berabanan einahon berav ula baraba. When they were saying this, they all turned to look at Rav Ula Barabam, who had all these beautiful qualities. He was guaranteed to be a ben olam haba. Okay, now he goes back to his city, the Zaken Mamre. Came to Sanhedrin Gadol. Sanhedrin Gadol told him what the halakha is. He goes back to his city and he continues to paskin the wrong way. Hey, at this point, Hayab Mita. The Rambam says either he does it himself or he paskins for others. Not that the others actually have to do it. But the next Braita is arguing, it doesn't seem to say it that way, but our Mishnah said it that way. Our Mishnah in Pevav said that he goes back and he says the halakha. It doesn't say they have to actually do it. But let's take a look at this Braita. He's not hayav, even if he argues in Regadol, until he does what he says, or he tells others and they do it like he said. Again, the Rambam doesn't bring that last part. The Mishnah and Pevav doesn't bring that last part, that the other people have to do like he said. Once he already tells them halachas like that, then it'll be hayav mita according to the Rambam. Now, you're telling me a hidush when he told someone else the halacha and they did like he said. Why? Because he's not considered. He didn't do anything that he hayav mita up until this point. And now that he gave the wrong halacha against the Sanhedrin Gadol, he's considered a dead man. You kill him now. What happens if he does it himself? If he does his own psak? If he did an avera, that doing the avera itself is hayab mita, so then there's no hidush of being zakim amrei, because he's anyway considered, he already anyway has the death penalty. The Gemara says, okay, so it was a case where he ate forbidden fats or he ate blood, which is not, you don't get mita for eating dam or chelev. And now he's zakim amrei, he does get hayav mita. But one second, so what's the chidush if someone did an avera that he would get mitat bedin? So he did an avera that he gets mita, and that's the case that he argued with the bedin. So he already would get hayav mita. The other cases when you go against when you do a avera, you need a warning in order to get punished. But if you're going against the Sanhedrin Gadol, you do not need a warning. One second, there's another case. A mesit, an instigator who causes people to go to Havodah Zarah. We already learned from the Pesukim that you don't have Rahmanut on him, and you don't need a warning for him. You just kill him. So the same thing. If that was the case, that he argued with Beit Din HaGadol, and he would hayab mitav zakim amrei, he would have been hayab mitav ready for mesit without warning. No, there's still a difference between a mesit, an instigator for Avodah Zarah, and the case of a zakim amrei, because by a mesit, if we bring him to Beit Din to kill him, if he gives some sort of explanation, we'll believe it. But as zakim amrei, once he knows halacha, the Beit Din said like this, and he's arguing with it, so he doesn't, even if he explains it away, we would not believe him. Okay. Now we come to a new Mishnah with a Gemara, and the Mishnah seems to be going according to Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that Zakim Mamrei is going to be Hayav Mita if he goes against the case that's written in the Torah and explained by the rabbis. Okay, so let's take a look. Chomer b'divrei sofrim b'divrei Torah. Becoming a Zakin Mamrei, it's more if you go against the rabbis than if you go against the Torah. For example, Ha'omer en tefillin. The rabbi gets up and he says there is no tefillin, no misvah tefillin. Kedei la'avor divrei Torah. He wants to go against the Torah. Patur. He is exempt as a Zaken Mamre. Okay? Because everybody knows it said Beferush in the Torah that there is tefillin. And he comes and says, no tefillin. Says, so the psukim, that says. And he says, no. So he's not Zakim Mamre because he's going against the Torah. No one's going to believe you. But if he comes and he says, Hamesh Totafot, right? We know that on the head tefillin, there are 4 compartments, right? Totafot, the different lashonot, and the rabbis learn it from different ways that it means there's 4. So it's a mitzvah that's based in the Torah. It's explained by the rabbis how many you're supposed to do. And he comes and he says, no. Put a 5th onto it. Okay? Lehosif al divrei sofrim hayav. In this case, he's going to consider Zaken Mamre. Right? So, it seems to be that we're talking about Rabbi Yehuda, who says it's based on the Torah, explained by the rabbis. In the case is by Tefillin, he says, add 1. The next line is even more. The Gemara starting is even more of a Hidush. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Amar Rabbi Oshia. He's not Hayav as a Zaken Mamre unless it's sourced in the Torah. Upirisho medivrei sofrim. And it's explained by the rabbis. And it has to be something that you can add to it. Meaning the rabbis say 4 and he adds the 5th. And when he adds to it, he now detracts from the mitzvah. And that's the case of Zaken Mamre. And you only have one case. Ela tefillin. Ali Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you have one case that comes Zaken Mamre by tefillin. Okay. So first of all, the Ran says, "What do you mean? Just one case? That's the whole Zaken Mamre for going against tefillin, saying add a 5th spot? How can that even be true? What about the whole Braita we had? All these explained the pasuk. All right. Oh, it's about tzarat. It's about this. What do you do all that? More interesting for us at least. The Rambam. The Rambam says halacha Rabbi Meir. That right? If you're chayav if an avera that you chayav karet, or if you did it on purpose, or you chayav chatat if you did it by accident b'shogeg. That's the cases where it's a Zaken Mamre. And then he adds the Rambam and says also by tefillin if he says to add a 5th. It's like a Rambam. Passing Rabbi Meir or passing Rabbi Yehuda. What is going on with the Rambam? How do you explain that? And how do you understand Rabbi Yehuda to mean that there's only one case? So the Ran wants to say as follows. The Ran wants to say that no, Rabbi Yehuda is not saying there's only one case. Rabbi Yehuda wants to say as follows. You're right, but Averot, by doing a lo ta'aseh, Torah says don't do it, and you do it, there also comes Zaken Mamre. All types of cases. Whether it has to be karet or not, maybe he argues on that. Maybe. Right, that's the Ran wants. The Ran says he is arguing. For our understanding of the Rambam, that is the way it is. So what is the Ran saying? The Ran saying that the only positive commandment that you can become a Zaken Mamre is the case of tefillin. So there are lota says you can become a Zaken Mamre, but there is no positive commandment other than tefillin you can become a Zaken Mamre. And that's what the Rambam agrees to. The Rambam says it's Rabbi Meir that if you did it, chayiv karet, right? Lota said if you do, you chayiv karet. And if you do it by accident, chayiv chatat. That's for averot. But for the ta'aseh, for the doing, you only have tefillin. Now, how does he hold them both? So either the Rambam holds that Rabbi Yehuda is not arguing with Rabbi Meir, and he's just adding on. Rabbi Meir says about the karet and the shogeg and the hatat, and he comes and adds on and tefillin, and that's the way Rambam understands Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, and it's one opinion. And then Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, the Ran, Rashi, and others, even those in the Rambam want to say no. There are 3 opinions here. It's not Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir agree. That Rabbi Yehuda agrees to Rabbi Meir. No. But the Rambam holds Rabbi Meir, and the Rambam holds up Rabbi Yehuda. And so that's why he brings down both of them. And that's the halacha, the way the Rambam brings it down. But now, our Gemara continues. And our Gemara says, what? There's only one case where you add on and it takes away from the mitzvah. V'ha'ika lulav. You have lulav. You have arbor minim, right? And the Torah doesn't tell us exactly what the lulav is. So the Torah says l'kaktam lechem b'yom rishon, kapos timorim v'anaf eitz avos arvei nachal pri eitz hadar. Right? I don't think I said it in order, but basically that's what the Torah says. And the rabbis explain pri eitz hadar, it's an etrog, arvei nachal, avos, anaf eitz avos, that's hadasim, kapos timorim, that's a lulav. So they explain, right? So it's explained. It's in the Torah. Explained by the rabbi. But yesh bo lohosif, and the person came and added a fifth min, comes and brings a papaya, or he takes an avocado as well. Ve'im hosif gorea, and if he adds to it, he's detracting from the mitzvah. The mitzvah has to take 4. The Gemara says, no. Hold on. Let's take a look at lulav. How the mitzvah lulav plays out. Lulav masviralan. What do we hold by lulav? The machloket. Do you have to tie up the lulav together or not? In the end, we said we don't have to, but we do in order to make it nicer. But isvaralan, the lulav ein tzarich again. If the lulav doesn't need to be tied up, I mean, you can take each one separately. You don't have to tie them up. So if I take 6 minim or 7 minim, they don't have to be tied up. So as long as I take them, so the 4 that I took, they don't have to be tied up. And the 5, 6, 7, they're holding. Okay, it's there, it's separate. Even though I took them all together, but I took the 4 that I needed because they don't have to be all one unit; they can be separate. So, each one is itself, stand by itself. Take a look at note 39. If you want to hold an extra species in his hand while he takes the 4, he does not spoil his performance in the mitzvah, since the 5th is not connected, because you don't need to connect them. So therefore, it's not connected. And there's still an issue of Baal Tosif, of adding on, but it doesn't take away the mitzvah from a Zaken. It doesn't take away from the mitzvah of Lulav. It's Baal Tosif, it's a problem, but it's not taking away the mitzvah of Lulav. So it's not a problem from Zaken Mamway. So you can't make him a Zaken Mamway from this. Even if you hold that it has to be connected, it has to be a case where originally it was kosher and now it's not. If you say it has to be connected and you added the avocado from the beginning, you put the papaya from the beginning, you tied it up, then from the beginning it was never good. It's not that it was good and it became bad. So you cannot become as I came away from this. So therefore, and what would happen if I tied it up and then added? Okay, so the minute I picked it up already, if I had the 3 and I had the lava hadasim maravot, and I picked them all up, and now I added a papaya to it, right? No. Once I already picked it up, I already did the mitzvah. Tefillin is different. Tefillin, the whole time I'm wearing is mitzvah. Therefore, if I had it kosher and then I added to it, and that made it pasul, then that's the case of the zaken mamway for tefillin. Okay, the Gemara says in 1 second. There's another case. Vahika tzitzit. You had tzitzit. The ikarom divrei Torah. The Torah tells us. Al kanfei bigdeihem. Upirisho v'dei sofrim. And the Chachamim say how many strings? Gidelim. It means 4. Right? So you put 4 strings through, and they fold over. If a person added a 5th string, he makes the tzitzit pasul. 1 second. How does tzitzit work? Tzitzit masviralan. What do we hold by tzitzit? Isviralan the kesher elyon lav deoraita haluchudakay v'haluchudakay. Okay, so machloket by tzitzit. Do I have to make what's known as a kesher elyon? Do I have to make a knot to separate the 2 sides? Can I have the tzitzit just hanging, or do I need to make a knot and separate the 2 sides? Okay, so if I hold I don't need a knot, then what? Then I just have the strings hanging. So if I have 5 strings, 6 strings, 7 strings hanging, who cares? I have 4 strings that are the mitzvah, and the other strings are just hanging there. It's a whole separate thing and nothing to do with the mitzvah. There's the mitzvah, and then there's not the mitzvah. Again, it's about tosif. If you're adding on, you shouldn't do that. But the mitzvah is still intact. And if you hold that they have to be tied, the kesher elyon deoraita, you need them tithing. You need to tie. They have to be connected. So if you add the 5th right away and you tied it with the 5th, so it was never good. Now, if let's say it was good, and then you unraveled it and then you added the 5th, still not good, because the minute you unraveled it, it's no good if you hold it. It's supposed to be tied. So I never at one point it was kosher and then became pasul. It was never kosher from the beginning. Verses 1 saying it. So the same thing is true by tefillin. One second. What tefillin are we talking about here? If you have a tefillin that started with 4 and then you added it, so you have the 4, which is the original, then that's it. And then the fifth one is separate; it's not counted. Okay, it's baltosif, but still, the mitzvah still exists. The tefillin is still okay. And if he made a tefillin with 5 compartments, then from the beginning it was never a good tefillin, and therefore, it cannot be considered zakim mamre here because it wasn't good and he changed it to bad. True, true, true. But you're forgetting one thing. There's a din. When it comes to tefillin shel rosh, perhaps even tefillin shel yad, it has to be that the outside of the box has to be open to the ear. And if it's not, it becomes invalid. So you're right. This is for they each on separate, but there's still a problem. So I have 4, and you add the 5th, yeah, it's a separate, but it blocks the side of the tefillin that's the box, which has to be open to air. And so that's the case that it was kosher. It's a halacha from the Torah that's explained by the rabbis, and if you would add to it, you're actually detracting. That is the case of tefillin. That's what the Rambam brings us as the one mitzvah said that as Zaken Mamre argues on, and so you have to add a 5th. That is the case where if you consider Zaken Mamre, can be hayav mitah. Interesting to note that based on this, there are those who say that tefillin shel yad, that box that covers it to protect the corners. Some say you shouldn't wear it you shouldn't have it on the tefillin while you're wearing it because your tefillin has to be exposed to the air. Now, obviously, your clothing and other stuff are not considered a problem for it. Problem is something that's very close onto it, right? None of it's loosely over it. So someone would say, no, the box is okay, it's loose. Some make a shorter box that doesn't cover the whole thing, just part of it, just the corners protected. They bring down the halacha. The best thing to do is to take it off when you're making the bracha, when you're wearing it for the first couple of seconds, and then to put it on if you want to protect it. If you can keep it off the whole time, even better. Some say no, it's only shel rosh, it's not the shel yad. There are other opinions why it'd be mutar to leave it. So if someone left it, it's okay. Again, but probably better to at least take it off in the beginning when you're putting the bracha and you're keeping it for the first minute or so, and then to put it back on if a person needs to. But that's interesting halacha that comes out from there as well. So that is the Gemara for today. Bezat Hashem, we'll continue next week. Thank you. Chag Sameach.